she has a porcelain skin and a cotton-like hair. My grandpa was somewhere between vanilla and strawberry yogurt tone, like my uncle and my cousin. My mother, she has a cinnamon skin. She's daughter of a native Brazilian with a pinch of hazel and honey. And a man, mix of coffee with milk, but with a lot of coffee. She has two sisters, one in a toasted peanut skin and the other also adopted, more on the beige side, like a pancake. So growing up in this family, color was never important for me. Outside home, however, things were different soon. As I said, I was born in Brazil and abolished was slavery in 1888. And I have an invisible backpack full of stereotypes of who I am. I remember when I was young, I never understood why we classify human beings as black, white, red, or yellow, colors associated with the concept of race. And I remember the first day in art class with 7 years old when the teacher introduced me to a crayon, a pink one, and called it Flash. Of course, I was made of flesh, but I was not pink. My skin was brown, and people said I was black. I have 7 years old and a mess of colors in my head. So using my work as photographer, I really try to show how I saw my family and all these questions that I had in my mind. So this is why and how Humanæ is born. I will share my screen with you now. So in Humanæ, what I do, I portray a person in a white background, then I choose a square of 11 pixels from the nose, I paint the background, and I look for the corresponding color in the industrial palette called Pantone. Why I use this palette? Because I know that they have a lot of colors for the color black, not of numbers for the color black. They also have a lot of numbers for the color white, and I can assure you I was not able to find any human beings that fit in these colors. As you can see, this is Humanæ and really looks like my Christmas dinner, full of colors. So this work started this way, in galleries and museums. And there is one that is also happening now, a part of the Bias Inside Us, that is an exhibition that I'm very proud to be part. That is in the American Museum of Natural History, called The Nature of Color. And there is a room that is called The Color of You. And with the facts that I really think that's important. Eyes, hair, skin, humans are wonderfully colorful. But skin color has been misused to separate people into races, and attitudes toward race have long been used to justify discrimination, segregation, and genocide. In fact, people are 99.9% genetically identical. We all share the same ancient ancestors, and we are all one species. So for me, it's important be in this exhibition or in the exhibition, The Bias Inside Us, because there is a layer of science that we can bring to this work that is not just artists, it's not just Angélica speaking about their life, their family, but it's exactly what science is saying now. We all belong to the same species. We are all humans. So from the wall of the gallery, I have to tell that I have one of my favorite places, that is be in the street. Because one of the big missions of this work is exactly that, spark conversations. So as you can see, you have these students in the street in São Paulo, just search for colors similar to who they are, speaking about their own identity, about their own family. And even someone like this guy that maybe he will never thought that he belongs to this space that is the museum, feel that is welcome to also be part of the conversation. And as we are speaking about public space. This was really a special place. This is the World Forum Econômico in Davos in 2017. It was the first time that someone occupied, that artist occupied the main entrance of the building. Because as important as being in the street, speaking with everybody in their everyday lives, it's fundamental be able to speak with our leaders. They have to understand how diversity is important in our neighborhoods. For example, as you can see here in this other exhibition, that is in Quito, in Habitat 3. It's the meeting of United Nations to speak about the future of the cities. And of course, when we are thinking about new cities, the way that we deal with our neighbors, we have to put diversity as a value in this experience. People always ask, but how you make the photos? I will tell you. This is in Chiasso in Switzerland. It's a city that is in Switzerland, but in the border with Italy. A city that everybody crosses in everyday life, a border. In this case, we put the studio in the main street of the city, and everyone that was passing by or interested just can come in and be part. But for us, it's really important to create a conversation in the city. So that's why we invite the immigrants that are receiving Italian classes to have the classes in the studio. We spoke about the work, I show photos, they saw some images of Humanæ, who people from Afghanistan, Syria, Eritrea, Nigeria, Korea. And the ones that were interested, they were able to be portrayed. We also invite people from the residence of elders, people of 75, 80, even 9 years old, that sometimes are the ones that are afraid of new things. We have a tea together, and then in the end, the ones that want, they also were part of Humanæ. I also, and I will speak later a little bit more about it, I did a workshop with kids between 10 and 12 years old, and the ones that want, and I promised that I ask, they posed for Humanæ. So this is what happened. This is Piazza del Colori. That was a beautiful point of conversation when you have all the community join together, and maybe these people, these neighbors that never will speak with each other, they have opportunity to be there together, see each other, come back again with other members of the family, and celebrate the diversity of the city. I didn't know a little bit of numbers around this work. I have more than 4,500 portraits that I made in 20 countries and 36 cities all over the globe, from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia to Daegu in South Korea, in China, in Brazil, but also in the United States, in France, in United Kingdom, in South America, in Chile, in Argentina. And sometimes I really think that maybe the most important information that you will find in my photos is exactly the lack of information. Is a really invitation to look at each other as human first. I portrayed in the headquarters of UNESCO, but also in favelas in Rio de Janeiro, in Paris, in a shelter, or even students in Switzerland and favelas in Rio de Janeiro. I have people that crossed the Mediterranean by boat, or people that are TED attendees. And you can say who is who. It's really an invitation to look at each other as human first. So you look at these people that of course have the same color as I pick the square of the nose, but you know that they had life experiences that were different because of the concept of race. So if race is a social construction, I really believe that we can deconstruct this through art. And that is the reason why some years ago, I jumped from the wall of the museum to the classroom. I really want to generate a conversation, and if we speak as kids, as the youngest ones, as the future generations that will be the leader, that will be the ones that will change this world, how we can give tools to them to really make this change. So in this workshop, kids, what they do is try to make a self-portrait inspired by Humanæ. We all use exactly the same materials. Doesn't matter if it is a very wealthy school or a school with the minimum resources. And I always started this workshop celebrating the first family of Homo sapiens that migrated from the African continent. We don't know if they were searching for adventures or if they are searching for a better life. We do know that we are here just because of them. So to start this workshop, we mix the blue and the yellow and we make a green. Then this green we will mix with red. And what we will do is a brown. And from this brown with white, with black, sometimes adding a little bit of yellow or pink, we will be able to create absolutely all colors of skin. It's important for these students, for them to understand that as human beings, the same way that we are working with the colors, we are all made from the same material. But of course, you will see that the results will be completely different. So in this process, that this is a school that's in New York, in Bed-Stuy, in Brooklyn, they are searching this first moment, search for their own skin tone. As you can see, they are making a lot of tests. It's really beautiful how in the process, the kids are able to really pass through the same color, even if the result, the final result will be different. And as you can see here, their pieces of art are much more interesting than mine. The self-portraits are really amazing, and it's a very powerful reflection in class. And you have examples like these. We are speaking about how we can empower our youth. This was in Czech Republic. That the only thing that we have clear is that white was the paper that we are using, even if the class was not a class full of diversity. In this case, I have the opportunity to work with 48 students between 15 and 18 years old. They were the ones that were leaders of workshops in all the region of Moravia. And as you can see here, so those are their students between 6 and 12 years old. The students that were multipliers, the ones between 15 and 18 years old, were able to make workshops with more than 7,000 students in the whole region between 6 and 12 years old. So it's really give them the tools to be these change makers. And when we work with schools, it's extremely important to have some kind of reproduction of even of the way that I exhibit. So our goal is really put the self-portraits outside. It's really be able to connect with the community. It's really create a dialogue between the school and the society. And you can see some of the examples. And even in a concert, these 3 last photos that you were seeing was a beautiful project in Chile with the government and UNESCO during an event that they call it the Week of Education in Art. In this case, we work with more than 1,000 schools in the whole country and 75,000 kids students in general, because some of them are very young, but we have even university students, they did their self-portrait inspired by Humanæ. And on May 18 of 2018, we opened the doors all together to really show the world, show the country, show to our communities that there is no such a thing as black and white. Because the goal is that, how we can together create this conversation around diversity, have been as someone that has a very important role in this conversation, kids. That is the reason that when we decided to do the first book of Humanæ, it has to be something that's really focused on children. So the colors we share is made for young readers, 5 and up. The goal is making questions and really see that this is not the reality. That, for example, that is one thing that we can really see the difference between these two guys, is that one is full of melanin and the other has no melanin because it's albino. That in the same way that I show in my workshops, I invite you to do at home, to mix the yellow and the blue, to add green, create a green, mix the red with the green, and create completely different tones of beige and brown. Of course, in this book, what we had in the center is a mirror, because all the time we are inviting you to look at yourself when you are looking at the photos, but also when you look at yourself at the mirror, and really make all of us see that we are all a small part of this change. And for my part, this was the introduction, and I'm really happy to start a conversation.
Okay, thank you for that. That was great.
Thank you.
So now we wanted to open it up to the group at all, and you guys watching at home. Did you have any questions for Angélica about her process? Do you have any of you been to the library and seen the exhibit and wanted to share any information about that? We would love to kind of get your feedback and what you guys think, and if you have any questions that we can help talk about into bigger conversations. So feel free to use the Q&A in the chat. And while we're waiting to see if any questions come in, Angélica, I know that you've done some TED Talks. Can you talk to us a little bit about what those experiences are like? So, I mean, being up there on a big stage, that's kind of intimidating.
Was the first time for me, was extremely important. I started this work in 2012, and they invited me to do the first TED in the main stage in 2016. I had a very short TED Talk of 2013 that was in a small event here in Madrid, at TEDx Madrid. But it was really beautiful because they invited me to the big event because they saw this small one, and they said that it was such a powerful idea that they want really to amplify this idea, as the mission of TED is spread ideas that was spread. And for me, it was really important because it was the first time that I'm really telling the story behind this work. So generally, as artists, you know that you put your photos and they have to speak by themselves. But one of the things that I learned in the whole process of Humanæ is that you have to share more than just the images. So this TED was this giant opportunity that has almost 3 million views, and was really also opportunity to have this conversation in 33 languages, due to the amazing effort of the translators. I know that this is like Uncle Ben said, huge power come with great power come with a great responsibility, and was exactly this for me. So I knew that I have to do this great because it will something that will not represent me, Angelica, as individual, but also represent a lot of people that were feeling exactly the same, and feeling and wanted to speak about identity, equality, racism, and all these issues that are also behind the work. So for me, it was really a beautiful experience, full of love, full of people supporting me. And I really have a very close connection with the TED community. I continue to work with them, especially in the TED Ed weekend. That is this event that they do just for students, for teenagers, basically, to make them speakers. I really think that we have to help and support the youth to really be able to share their voices.
Mhm.
So it was really, really beautiful.
So we have a question here. Hi, Angelica. Thanks for your presentation. I absolutely love the work that you have done. I love and celebrate diversity and love to see others celebrating diversity too. What was the overall goal of your work and how were you accepted in the countries that you have visited?
There is one sentence of Tupac Shakur that is always resonating in my mind, that I'm not going to change the world, or something like that. I'm not going to change the world, but definitely I will spark the mind that will do it. So this is the point that is extremely important for me. I think that the big goal of Humanæ is generate the conversation. Maybe I will never see the big benefits that, or the things that I'm constructing. Sometimes I have kind of small messages or small things that are the things that continue to make me move forward. But my goal is really generate a conversation, being sure that I will not change the world, but definitely I will spark the mind that in the future will do it. And how are you accepting the countries that you visit? I visit so many countries, so and the conversations are completely different, and sadly sometimes are exactly the same. Because of course I spoke about colorism when I was in United States, in Brazil, but also when I was in China, and also in China, in Korea, in India, and also in the African continent. I think that in some way I create a space that people want to really show the humanity they have inside, who they really are. So I have, for example, beautiful conversations in a topic that it's not speaking about color, identity, or race, but with the LGBT community. I remember a spectacular lady that got into the studio. In this case, was in São Paulo, and long hair, high heels. And when she got into the studio, she asked me, "Do you have any transgender in your work?" Because she really wants to pose as she really are. And for example, when I've been in Russia, were conversations that were not around the color of skin, but yes, were all the time around stereotypes about being woman, sexual orientation, and gender. So I have different kind of conversations. And for example, I remember speaking about colorism with someone that has a Philippine background, but when I was portrayed in San Francisco, and she was speaking how she deal with this as someone with a Philippine background, and how all the issue of who is darker and lighter inside of group that is a minority, how these dynamics functions, and this happen everyday life. This is the everyday life of someone who is African descendant in Brazil, United States. So I really think that in the studio, a lot of conversation happens around humanity, how we can stand against discrimination in a wider point of view. Conversations about really celebrate who we are. A lot of families that come with these kids really trying to show them how be in touch with art and this conversation since they are very young. I don't know.
So you have used the term colorism. So
Yes.
for people at home who might not be familiar with that, could you just give like a broad definition of what you consider colorism to be?
Colorism speak about someone that, and I will speak about my case, that giving my example, I can really show you even example of my family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm, as you see, I'm African descendant, but I'm not that dark. I have a lot of privileges toward my sister that is darker than me. The stereotypes that she has, her life is a little bit more, sometimes much more difficult than mine, because of course she's darker. And I always speak about my cousin that is lighter, but he's lighter. He almost can be classified as white. And to add an extra layer, he's a man. So his life has a lot of more privilege than mine. So when you're speaking about colorism, we're speaking that the ones that even belonging to an ethnic group that can be Asian, Philippine, or African descendant as me, the ones that, of course, light skin have privileges if we compare it with the experience of the one with darker skin. I thought that maybe with a personal example is the best way to explain.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you come up with the name Humanæ for your project?
I really want to speak about humans, and I really try to find a word that can really be understood in different languages. It came from the word Humanæ, that is Latin, that in Italian, how we say this word, as you can see, is Humanæ. Humanæ, but I really want to find a word that can be understandable, and it's understandable in all Latin languages, Italian, French, Portuguese, Spanish, but it's also understandable in English. So I was really trying to make people understand that I'm speaking about humans, and that is the reason why I use this word.
Perfect. So I would imagine, dealing with, you started off wanting to photograph adults, and then did you sort of go into, from that, you talked about it a little bit, but wanting to sort of experience this type of thing with children? I would imagine that the children have to be such a fun and interesting experience going through that with them. Do you feel like it's still in the stage where they're like celebratory and like excited to find their skin color? Is that what you were finding in when you were doing these classes with them?
Yeah, the thing is that in the end, when I look at this work, Humanæ, even if I'm doing that with 40 years old, I'm 42 now, and I started this in 2012. I really think that I started to think this work really when I was 7 years old. So in some way, it was really natural that, and I'm daughter of a teacher. My mother is a teacher. My aunt is a teacher. I have a lot of teachers in my family. So it's natural that this work in some way goes to connect with education. And it's really amazing because that is one thing that I have clear. When I work with kids, especially young, they don't know that I'm Black. That is someone that have to tell what means Black. And especially explain the concept of race, because kids don't know that. Mm-hmm. They really understand that we are different, but the fear of other, or all the tags that we care to really define other human beings are we adults that teach that. And I'm 100% sure that nobody will accept that a teacher get into the school now saying that the earth is flat. Everybody say, no, I don't want my kid in that school. But we accept when we think about different races as human beings. Yes, I always insist in that point. Race is a lie, is a social construction, but racism is different, is something that I experience in my everyday life. So what I'm really trying to bring to the kids is exactly this conversation. So even before they know what the concept of race means, they understand that this is not true. So no, the difference between us is because one has more melanin than other. We are all human beings. And what we are is based, good or bad, based in the content of our character. So this is something that is extremely important and happen every day in schools. And of course, working with kids, it's really a joy. How they are discovering the colors, how they look at the colors in the beginning. So the primary colors and black and white. How will you do this? It will be impossible. So how it's really changed. It's very funny because I have to tell that in the beginning I work more with kids. Now I'm really focused and work with adults. So if I work with one teacher, imagine the amount of kids that I can reach out and work with one kid. So my focus is even with the ones that are not teachers, red teachers. So I work with a lot of universities in the Department of Education. For the ones that will be teachers in the future, be able to have this in mind when they go to school. Now they will finally be professionals, and that they never explain that a crayon is colored flash.
Right.
So it's obvious. So but I have to tell that sometimes at workshops, and it's really a joy, how they are surprised, how they are having fun, how they are helping each other. It's really amazing, provoking that the ones that are the faster finishing, helping one another. I always have mirrors in the class in the moments that we're doing self-portraits, because I don't want them to draw a stereotyped image of who they are. Look at yourself, look at the mirror, and how they're really trying to do as close as possible the self-portrait. And the most important thing, how they go back home speaking with their parents. And this is the powerful thing, how they can have the power to really change the narrative inside their own homes. So I have examples of someone that I was listening, my oldest daughter speaking with the youngest one, and you can imagine repeated exactly your speech saying that, no, it's not flash color. And look at this mix of paintings. Or someone that is a teacher that I visited the school of her kid. And when she come back, when the kid come back home, he explained what he did in the class, and the mother really wrote me a very emotional email saying, my kid, because of you, today was my teacher, because I will use Humanæ in my classes. Was amazing surprise, receive this lesson from my children. So I really think in this as the points of I think that this sentence of Tupac Shakur, that we are doing that.
Awesome. Okay, so we have a patron who was wondering, where can your book be found? It was just published, correct? So now it is out and available?
Yes, it's in aperture.org, or you can just Google it, The Colors We Share. It's a very easy name, and I'm happy that nobody has this name as a book because it was so simple. So The Colors We Share, I did with Aperture. That's a nonprofit in the US focusing really connect photography, education. And that is a beautiful thing that we will just launch the book, and in autumn we will have this, that it will be a completely educational resource with more than 10 lessons, exactly to be able to support all these ideas of the book, but in school. So how we can make the life of teachers easy to spread the message. So it's easy. Just the colors we share, aperture.
Okay, so then is this something that you're still, is this an ongoing project? Are you always still taking photos? Are you looking to do something else? Like, where are you in this, with this whole thing?
If you look at my web, I have different works, and I continued making photos because I'm in love with photography. My father, the first portrait that my father did of me was in the cesarean of my mother. I was literally getting out of the belly of my mother, and my father was there with the camera. So I have this technology by my side my entire life, and I enjoy this a lot. So I do different works you can see in my web. About Humanæ, for me, it's a project that have so many hands. And for me, Humanæ is not just make photos. Maybe the most important things happen before and after the photos, maybe this conversation in the studio, or when people see their own photos in a wall. But I have to tell you that the last thing that I did before the pandemic was exactly making photos. Imagine 9, 10, and 11 of March, March 10, 11, 9, 10, and 11, I was in New York portraiting for this project in the American Museum of Natural History. You can imagine that craziness.
Right.
So, and the 13, they closed the span.
Yeah.
and 15, I was finally be able to come back home. So the last thing that I was doing before the pandemic was exactly making photos for Humanæ, and I really expect to go back to make these photos again. For me, I don't know, maybe one day I will stop making photos because I will be tired, but will be a work that will be unfinished. I really think that if I have the opportunity to make photo and really have this conversation with the 7 billion inhabitants of the planet, maybe if this conversation was really global and we all felt that we belong to this conversation, it will be amazing, but of course it is impossible. So this is a work that I will never finish. Maybe I will, of course, stop making photos. But probably when they allow me to start making photos again, be free to create this studio as this kind of family house that we do in the studio. People are waiting, they don't know each other, they're speaking about this, what they want. So when I'm able to do this kind of things back again, I will make photos of Humanæ again.
So in this last year, in the US particularly, there has been a very big focus lately on diversity because of what's going on, right, with our police force and just with our world. Have you noticed in this past year? I mean, I feel like your work is more important than ever now. Have you been, do you feel like people had been reaching out to you more so than usual in this past year because of everything that's happening in the US?
Do you remember this day that everybody put a black square on Instagram?
Yes.
I put mine, but instead of put hashtags and things like that, I said maybe now people will understand why I'm not tired of these 8 years working with Humanæ. What I'm really exhausted is of 41 years being dehumanized by the color of my skin. Mm-hmm. So I really think that that's the reason why I will never stop, because I really feel that until I feel that I'm dehumanized, and when I'm speaking about I'm speaking about the US, I'm speaking about Brazil, I'm speaking about here in Europe, I'm speaking about what I saw every day in the news here in the border in the Mediterranean Sea. I need to continue speaking about that. And I have to tell that I don't see that war more or less because of the murder of George Floyd and all that happens with Black Lives Matters. But I have to tell that I have maybe good surprises of people that I don't expect that will reach out. Some companies that really want to position themselves as anti-racist. And I really think that's an important step, that it's not just a hashtag, but that we compromise ourselves to really, we are all part of this conversation. We will just eradicate the discrimination if we really work together as what we are, the same species.
Well, if you guys want to ask any last minute questions, I just want to thank Angélica again so much. And please, I'll give another plug to our amazing exhibit. It's all about bias. And Angélica has a huge feature. Again, it's on our second floor. It's interesting to me. We have a guest book up on our second floor so people can give their comments about the exhibit. And we've gotten some great feedback, but it's also is right by the teen center. And so it's really great when we see it, because teens will just come by and they'll only write like one word and it'll be like teen slang of like tight or this was great or whatever. But they took the time to like do it and sign it and write it. So I'm like, this is a good thing, man. So it's just exciting to see our community really liking it a lot.
And I have to tell that I'm really happy and proud to be part of this exhibition. When the Smithsonian invited me, and especially with the bias inside us, let's recognize that we all have bias, as we are all humans, and how we can really fight against this bias. Is the first thing is really recognize it, and then how we can work on it. So for me, this is essential, fundamental exhibition that, of course, speak about racism, but speak about different bias that we have as human beings. So that's why I really think that is deeply connected with all these layers that the Humanæ has, and I'm really happy. So congratulations for this exhibition.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time on this Sunday to come out and talk to all of us. And
my pleasure.
Everyone, you can find Angélica, do you want to type in your website in the chat?
Yes, I will. How can I do this? I'm sorry. Preguntas y respuestas.
Oh, so right there on the bottom thing, just put chat.
Yes.
Oh, you know what? I can probably find it too.
Let me see. Yes, I see chat. Oh, now it's open. Yeah. This is my web.
Perfect.
And the name of the book, just in case. And feel free to follow me in any social media you have at Angélica Dass.
All right. So thank you very much.
Much.
Everyone have a good